This is the first discussion I will be making with regards to pharmacology, and I believe that this would cater better to our friends outside the pharmacy field. That is because for pharmacy majors, you probably know everything I'm going to say here, but for the rest, this may be something for you. Now, before we, of course, study how the drugs work in our body, we must first understand what the drugs really are made of in the first place. Now, I could also discuss how they are discovered, but that would be for a different subject altogether. But all we should know is that most drugs that we use today are primarily pure compounds. And of course, that means that we are referring to one single entity, one simple molecule with a definite structure, with a particular molecular weight, melting point, and all of that. Now, if we have to deal with things like isomerism, we will deal with that somewhere in the future, a little more advanced, that is. Now, you might think, so does that mean that if I take some kind of tablet, all that tablet contains is that drug? That's actually not also correct. That is, that's because the tablets or capsules we're taking have other things called excipients, which we need to, make them into proper dosage forms. Like for example, in a capsule, that soft part you're touching before you drink it is gelatin. And that's not a drug. The gelatin is only there to help you drink it as a capsule. Without it, there's no capsule. But what's really active, or the one that gives the drug-like activity, is what's inside. Okay? Now, regardless of what these are, they can be sourced from nature. So, meaning we could extract those pure compounds from plants or bacteria or somewhere from the soil or in marine sources. Or, of course, we could also synthesize them in the lab. But regardless, they should still be pure compounds, whether they come from nature or synthetic procedures. As far as their size is concerned, most of the drugs that we see in the drugstore are what we call quote unquote small molecules. Now, this is a term that has a lot of different, definitions. Even the molecular weight can be debated upon. Some books mention a limit of 500. Some textbooks mention 1,000 grams per mole. But the thing is, around 90% of the drugs we're taking today are small molecules. The few of them which are actually gaining popularity recently are called biomolecules, which of course if you studied your biochemistry would mean proteins or polysaccharides and even nucleic acids. Like for example, case in point, many of the vaccines we have for COVID-19 are actually biomolecules because they are nucleic acid strands. Okay, so it's kind of an emerging technology in the last decade. And of course, our drug should be given an appropriate dosage form, which again allowed me to mention the word excipients. Okay. Now, take note that drug molecules must interact with a target, which we often call as a receptor in pharmacology, with complementarity. If you remember your biochemistry, whenever we throw in the word complementarity, that means that we're thinking of like two puzzle pieces that must fit together. That is, back then in biochem, our example almost every time is an enzyme and a substrate. That is, if I have an enzyme here, and then an enzyme has this cavity or a gap called the active site, the shape of the active site must be so that the substrate must fit into it. So this thing that fits right here is an example of complementarity. So in other words, if our drug has to work, it must not only be taken in by our body, but it must find a particular protein, most of the time it's a protein, that it will target and then bind with complementarity as if we are fitting puzzle pieces together. If they don't fit, then we don't really expect any therapeutic benefit from the things we're taking. Now, since we are dealing with pure compounds and molecules as far as drugs are concerned, I think for starters, we have to pay attention to three very important chemical properties. First is lipophilicity, or the capability of the molecule to be dissolved in lipid. That is why it's called lipophilic, right? Loves lipid. And of course, whenever we mention words like lipophilicity and hydrophilicity, we always have to go back to the chemical principle of polarity. That is, remember this, when you say that something is polar, it has some kind of charge. Well, most of the time, only a partial charge, be it a partial positive and a partial negative charge, or a partial negative charge. And these usually are made possible by the presence of electronegative atoms, such as oxygen or nitrogen or halogens. This is why most of our drugs contain OH groups or NH2 groups, that is, alcohol or hydroxy groups and amino groups, because they have the capability, or even COOH groups, because those have the capability to give us charges or to ionize. Okay? Now, in some other cases, we actually do not want to have any charge because of whatever reason. So, remember this, when we go back to organic compounds, what are examples of compounds or functional groups that are nonpolar? In general, if you remember, nonpolar compounds include the hydrocarbons. So we're talking here about alkanes or alkenes or even aromatic compounds, which are really just made up of carbons. So if you see something like this alkane, the straight chain alkane here, this is nonpolar, of course. So we could say that it is a lipophilic molecule. Or, for example, benzene, that is another example of a lipophilic molecule. Now, in contrast, polar compounds include, again, those with charges, okay? So that would probably include ethanol, right? CH3CH2OH, or probably a simple amine like this one, ethylamine. So these are things, or probably something like a carboxylic acid, right? So maybe something with COOH. So these are, in contrast, examples of relatively polar compounds, because I could, again, see some negative charges, partial negative charges, and also some partial positive charges here, which are of course absent in nonpolar compounds. Now, if you ask, so do drugs need to be nonpolar or polar? Do they need to be lipophilic or hydrophilic? And the answer, as I will mention in the future, is it should actually be a balance. But definitely, you cannot do away with this when you discuss drugs. Now, also, we will be discussing every now and then the shape of molecules, because the shape of the molecules, as dictated by their molecular geometry or hybridization, as we call them in organic chemistry, will tell us a lot. For example, if I have planar compounds, remember sp2 compounds are flat or planar, like for example benzene or things with double bonds. They would only have a two-dimensional appearance, right? But if I have sp3 carbons, or like carbons with four substituents, and then sometimes they could be chiral, that is, they have four different substituents. Of course, this would give rise to isomerism, right? And there will be some cases in the future I will mention, hey, this drug has two isomers, the S and the R, the levo or the dextrorotatory form. And it so happens that the other isomer is more effective. And why? We will answer things like that probably in a separate video dedicated more to the chemistry of these drug compounds. Now also, we have to deal with the fact that the size of our drugs are important because, again, in complementarity, there must be some kind of fitting. Imagine if your drug molecule is a gigantic compound and then the receptor you have is only this tiny thing. Definitely, if this drug is too large, then it would not be able to get that fit that you want, and there would be no effect for you to expect. In general, as of today, we have around a limit of 600 as the molecular weight. Before, it used to be 500 in accordance to some kind of principle in medicinal chemistry, but in the last 5 years, I should say, it has adjusted to around 600. But you will be surprised because, again, since some biomolecules actually have molecular weights of like tens of thousands and they still work, sometimes the factor of size is not anymore that important, but it still is. So I'm mentioning it nevertheless.